Welcome, everyone. This is the second time we are trying this, and hopefully, this goes better. I apologize for the issues on the live stream. I am going back and double checking Facebook, making sure it shows me live. And then I will also be showing Twitch. I will be making sure that I share. Hopefully this one goes better. Okay, that's it. Just a moment, because it's showing me live on Facebook, but it's not showing me the next video. So give me just a second. Let's check on Twitch. Yes, we are on Twitch. All right. Thank you to anybody who tunes in over on Twitch. I'm still waiting on Facebook to get its crap together. Still showing me live, but it's only showing me, there we go, finally. All right, let me share this. Let me share this on my personal Facebook. And actually, this works perfectly to prove my point about what we're going to talk about today with week 5. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me. I am just sharing on my personal Facebook page. Join live. All right. Thank you to everybody for bearing with me. I truly, truly appreciate it. I will be watching from Facebook, and I will occasionally be bouncing and checking on Twitch. So how is everybody? And thank you for hopping on to watch me live, especially if you were here for the 2 minutes that I originally was on, because that actually goes to show and prove our point for today. That inadequate physical and digital infrastructure is a struggle for many businesses that are low income, that are in economically disadvantaged areas. And so, yes. Oh no. Okay. Sorry, my whole screen acted like it was having issues. So, the fact that I started that live stream down in my office, in my basement, and I ultimately ended up back in my bedroom, is just a great example of some of the inadequate digital infrastructure that we'll be talking about today. And this is where we really need to buckle down and talk about the effects that it has on us as business owners. And we need to really focus on the fact that this type of stuff costs us money. We are paying fees for every time we are not able to be, at a location reliably because maybe our car broke down. Maybe we don't have an office anymore. Maybe our internet sucks because we're in an economically disadvantaged area, and so there are no good internet providers. In areas like mine, they tend to have insane contracts with companies like Comcast, where Comcast is then the only provider allowed in that area. And so then your options are things like 5G home internet. And while 5G is great, it's not very reliable all the time. Or even satellite, where satellite, yes, again, okay speeds, not phenomenal. But Comcast has just paid a higher amount of money to dominate that area as far as internet goes. So you can only get Comcast. You can't get Verizon Fios or anything like that. You have to go to other outside sources that don't use the lines above your head or in the ground, depending on what your infrastructure in your area is like. And so this type of stuff takes a toll on businesses of all kinds. So now that I've been on a rant, let's get into the actual notes that I have. So welcome to week 5. Today we are going to be talking about what I like to call the invisible tax. And no, it's not another one of the government's brilliant ideas. And it's far more insidious. It's the slow, quiet, and agonizing death of your business, courtesy of a pothole and a signal blinking Wi-Fi bar. I can't read today. If you thought that the only thing a bad road does is ruin your car's suspension, then bless your heart. Every single time your delivery driver hits a pothole, and that could swallow a small child, every single time your POS system, the terminal that takes your payments, every time that system drops because Wi-Fi that's powering it is powered by a hamster on a tiny wheel, that is money coming directly out of your pocket. And quietly is the key word. It's not a sudden dramatic collapse. It is literally a slow bleed. It's death by 1,000 cuts, all administered by 1980s era broadband speeds and roads designed by someone who hates tires. Okay, so now this one I will be also utilizing the bigger version because I was trying to fit a lot into this one little tiny slide. I apologize, my brain. Okay. So I want you guys to buckle up. because today we're diving into a topic that is so thrilling, so utterly exhilarating that it might just make you weep with joy. Or more actually, like sheer unadulterated frustration. We're talking about the invisible tax, and it's not the one that you're going to pay Uncle Sam. It's the one that is quietly and stealthily, with all the charm of a rogue squirrel in your attic, killing your business. Oop. I bounced ahead totally and completely on accident. All right. So what I want us to take a look at is these few key points here. So we're going to talk about direct cost escalation and efficiency loss. We are also going to talk about the financial impact. And I'm going to give examples. And that was why this slide had to include so much information, because I wanted you guys to really get an idea of how these slow leaks can really cost you a lot of money. We are also going to talk about reduced revenue potential and capital erosion, again, along with another cute little fact. Because let's be brutally honest, no one's going to believe this shit unless it gets backed with the facts. Let's be brutally honest. You know how much you love potholes, right? That satisfying thud as your delivery van sacrifices another tire. I guarantee that you guys are like me, and every time that you or your spouse or one of your coworkers hits a pothole, you cringe. And if you don't, you really need to start, because we have some issues. Because every single time one of those potholes is hit, that is another time that you're sitting there losing money. You are losing out on tire tread every time one of those potholes is hit. And let's not even get into what happens to the sway bars and the axle and the suspension when you hit potholes, okay? A pothole can go from something that is innocuous to expensive real quick. These aren't just features of your daily grind. They are, in fact, escalating your operational costs faster than a rocket-powered snail. Every single bump on that road less traveled is a direct hit to your bottom line. We're talking about elevated OpEx. Did you know that in areas with poor pavement conditions, businesses and consumers can face up to $700 per year in extra vehicle maintenance costs and fuel costs? That's money that could be spent on your inventory or employee bonuses, but instead is you're donating it to the very area that you live in for them to keep the roads crap. You're paying extra because they're too lazy to do their job. Dang it. I apologize. I was trying to scroll down on my couple of notes. Let's not even get started with the internet. The internet is just a connection powered by two hamsters on a wheel. You're not just slow. You're actively shredding money like a golden retriever in summer. You're trying to use modern tools, but your data moves at the speed of molasses in January. And this is critical because when a small business's internet connection is slow, they experience up to a 20% drop in worker productivity. Now, I have had to face this myself. Today was a wonderful example of this. I was on my live stream. I was actually a couple minutes early. And I was over here doing all of the things to find out that my internet had an unstable connection in my office. And I wouldn't have known that if it weren't for the fact that I was trying to live stream. It may have worked better if I was trying to stream to one platform, but I wanted to multi-stream. And so that really made my connection unstable. And I wasn't going to sit here and try to stream the same thing from two different platforms. That was just going to make it worse. And I wasn't going to go back and sacrifice what I was doing. So I had to sit here and entirely relocate to another portion of my house. And it's this type of stuff that really makes it difficult for business owners. And it's this type of stuff that took me an extra 25 minutes in total to get that all taken care of, my stuff set up in a different room, all of that. This is time and labor that you're paying for that's literally being eaten by a loading screen. Or in my case, an unstable connection screen. But this is exactly what we're talking about in real time. I live in exactly the same areas that I'm sitting here talking to you about. As a business owner, I am facing so many of the exact same struggles that I am sitting here telling you guys about. And this is how I know so much about these issues. Also, before I forget, let me add in the comments, if Facebook will let me. There we go. So what I'm going to be posting in my comments, these are resources that you can use if you have a Carnegie Library card. It is for free business courses and certifications. And I would highly look at what your library offers. We talked about that in week 3 about how your library card, and I apologize for going way back to week 3, but I was doing some more research into it. But because I wanted to get you guys what resources would work for the people in the Pittsburgh area. Because last time I just knew that there were states that did it. I did not have the opportunity to see if there was anything for that in Pittsburgh. So I did do some research. The Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. If you utilize that link, you can then take any number of educational classes through Google for free with your library card. They also work with Udemy and actually many other certification courses. So it's really cool that the Carnegie Library does that. And like I said, I just wanted to make sure I gave you guys a local resource for that. So I will be adding that shortly to Twitch. I'm not currently on Twitch on my phone, just on the computer, and I have the link on my phone currently. I apologize for that little break. The takeaway here, though, is savvy owners is this. You must celebrate. You must calculate the hidden cost of downtime. Every minute your system is down or slow is a direct subtraction from your gross profit. And so the example that we have here is a 15% increase in annual fleet maintenance, and a 20% reduction in worker productivity is due to software latency. So that's really crappy. And here's the thing, concurrently inefficient internet bandwidth, service unreliability, forces businesses to use outdated and inefficient processes that result in lost productivity, inability to process digital payments, and missed sales opportunities during critical business operating hours. This is never something that anybody wants to sit here and look at and be like, man, look at how much money I'm losing. Now, we're going to talk about the revenue chokehold, which is our next bullet point in this slide. So, reduced revenue potential and capital erosion is costing you a lot. This is your revenue generation. So keep that in mind as I'm talking about this. And I'm trying to keep it kind of light, but also very realistic because, guys, this was stuff that nobody told me. And honestly, I needed the brutal, honest truth of what was coming towards me for this. Because I had no idea when I started out how deeply ingrained some of these issues can really be, or how exhausting they can be to try to take care of. I'm still currently fighting with Google Gmail because Panther LabWorks does not utilize the newest IP that I have, and it's just crazy. They're still running off of a different system. I'm using IPv6, and they are on something else. Now, you might think, well, at least I'm saving money by not expanding. You are not saving money. You are just meticulously choking off your revenue potential by gracefully eroding your own capital. It's like having a 5-star chef, but only giving them a rusty can opener and a single potato. You want to grow? You want customers who aren't within a 2-block radius? Good luck. When you lack high-speed internet, your revenue is capped. Nationally, businesses with a strong digital presence see up to 3 times the annual growth compared to those without. If you can't efficiently use e-commerce, cloud-based inventory, or digital marketing because your connection is flaky, you are deliberately choosing to lose 2/3 of your growth potential to your competitors. This isn't just about losing a few dollars. This is about systemically undermining your ability to ever truly thrive. It's telling the world, please, oh please, don't invest here. The business educational point that I'm going to drive to you on this one is that you absolutely must diversify. And that's not just your payment and your sales channels, but that is a great start. When local infrastructure limits your ability to process digital payments, find mobile solutions, or even leverage local partnerships to bridge that gap, you then need to think outside of the box. You then need to advocate for infrastructure improvement and so much more. The best ways to do some of these is to pair with organizations that can do some of the advocating for you. E-commerce sales are limited to under 5% of the total revenue, and the interest rate on business loans is 3 percentage points higher than the national average. And the problem with a lot of this is when your revenue is capped, it leaves limited funds for necessary growth and expansion. It also leaves it so that external investors are less likely to look at you, which then results in higher borrowing costs, because then you're going to have to borrow from somewhere that is willing to lend to you with less money than the person down the street that has the same idea, just because they live in an area that's not economically disadvantaged. So while these infrastructure gaps might seem like minor annoyances, they are in fact a silent, relentless, and extraordinarily expensive task on every single business that's trying to make a difference in economically disadvantaged areas. It is time to stop admiring the problem and start investing in the solutions. And I'm not saying that us, as the business owners in those economically distressed areas, need to be investing our money only into these, but by showing that you're investing into these ways to solve these problems, it's going to go a lot farther, even if you're just investing time through advocacy. Because frankly, your balance sheet is tired of being punished for something entirely out of its own control. I promise I'm not going to overwhelm you with too many of these super big slides. Most of them are going to stay fairly simple, kind of like this one. So we're going to talk about the digital divide and operational bottlenecks. We're going to talk about when technology isn't your friend. We are going to talk about inadequate physical infrastructure. We are going to talk about a digital divide and how high-speed internet is more critical than ever. And then we are also going to talk about what happens to businesses when they can't effectively market because they don't have reliable internet. It's not even just effective marketing that is going to be on the chopping block. It is then going to be streamlining operations and so much more, such as managing finances, which then all affects your long-term viability. So we're going to look at the actual enemy, and that is when technology isn't your friend. The title is truly the most optimistic thing I've ever seen. The truth is, technology is actively working against you. Trends change constantly. Internet infrastructure is always changing, and because of that, you always have a new problem. It's not a friend who's ghosted you. It's a nemesis with a dial-up modem, essentially in communities that are already fighting an uphill battle. Your first point is just going to be absolute truth. And this is going to be that inadequate physical infrastructure acts as an ongoing tax on small businesses. This invisible tax that I keep talking about, it's disproportionately leveled on distressed areas. You get to play with high maintenance. You get to pay with high maintenance costs for delivery vans, constant downtime because the power is constantly going out every Tuesday, and a beautiful soul-crushing bottleneck in your operations. It's the tax on trying, and it's not deductible. It makes everything that you do, from getting supplies to opening the doors, much more expensive and significantly less reliable than it is for your competitors across town. But here's the real kicker. Here's going to be the fact that's going to really make you want to scream. The digital divide is even more critical. It's not just about a slow YouTube video or a lack of high-speed broadband access that literally prevents your business from fully engaging in a digital economy. In 2025, if you're stuck on slow-speed internet, you are effectively isolated. We have then sent you out on an ocean, on a tugboat, and nothing else. We gave you no fuel, no nothing. So once you run out, you're done. That is essentially what dealing with low-speed internet is like. This is a massive structural flaw because the simple fact is businesses in underserved communities are 10 times less likely to have access to high-speed fiber internet compared to their peers. So if you're trying to sell artisanal soap on a digital highway built for horse-drawn carriages while your competitor is flying a jet, can you imagine the consequences? It's simple, devastating, and disproportionate. Without reliable internet, you cannot effectively market, manage finances, or streamline operations without reducing your long-term viability. And here's what I mean. So I used to work for Verizon at one point. Sorry, Verizon. I know that you guys hate when people give these little facts, a glimpse into what it's like for fiber optics versus a company like Comcast. So Verizon, every single person who has Fios has a line that goes directly from a main cable out at the poles to your home individually. And so while, yes, you're ultimately getting the same internet connection as your neighbors, it's coming in through an individual wire where you're not sharing anything. But with the way that Comcast works is it's copper cabling. So you're sharing it with all of your neighbors within a 5-mile radius. That's why you have times where your internet is much faster or much slower, because your internet, when you're with Comcast or any other Frontier, well, Frontier is now Verizon, so I apologize, Frontier. You guys are all now fiber. Congratulations. But when you're with Verizon, or not Verizon, Spectrum, Comcast, anything like that, it's all ran off of copper cabling. So anybody within a 5-mile radius of you is also sharing your internet. So at 5 p.m. when everybody's at home, that is when your internet then gets traffic versus just dealing with the people in your house. So that is a huge slowdown, because even in economically distressed areas, they can be quite dense, which means you could be sharing with several hundred people. The reality for these businesses is that they're trying to implement a growth model with survival models too, and it just doesn't work. It's a chain. And it's a chain. I apologize. The reality of these businesses is that they're trying to implement a growth model with survival model tools, and it just doesn't work. It's a chain, and it provides a broken link. And that link that's missing is the 21st century basic necessities. This isn't a minor inconvenience, it's a structural flaw that's keeping the distressed community distressed. Now, who's ready to storm the local utility office? I know I am. Okay, so we're getting into everybody's favorite part, the in-depth action steps for this week. And so our in-depth action steps are going to be leveraging user-friendly software. We are going to also talk about how with leveraging that, you don't have to be a tech guru, but that you can simplify tasks from accounting to customer service. We will also be talking about how to design for offline first. And that also allows you to be able to take your office anywhere, whether you have an internet connection or not, and still have access to all of your files, all of your clients' files, all of that. And we're going to talk about going with mobile cloud-based files. So ditching the local server and taking your stuff entirely offline. And how that can really help reduce some of the issues that you will run into as a small business. Okay, so now that we've established the system is actively trying to kill your business, how do we fight back? We don't try to fix the system. That's for the politicians. We outsmart the system. We use our own weapons against them. First, leverage user-friendly software. You don't need a degree in tech sorcery to streamline your operations. These user-friendly tools are your best friends in the fight for more time and sanity. And for those of you wrestling with one Wi-Fi bar on a Tuesday, you need 2 new non-negotiable strategies. Those 2 new non-negotiable strategies are designing for offline first. You must, and I repeat, must assume that the internet is a lie. And this is especially true in economically disadvantaged areas, where service providers are often underinvested. Look for apps that support robust offline modes, like a point of sale system that caches sales. And this is your digital life graph. When the internet inevitably goes down, you'll still be ringing up sales while your competitor is staring blankly at a frozen screen. And go mobile with cloud-based files. Ditch the local server. It's just a fancy paperweight waiting for a power surge. Your documents belong in the cloud. For many small businesses in distressed areas, their owner's phone or personal laptop is their only connection to the business. Using the cloud ensures that if your physical location is inaccessible due to a literal pothole or a figurative one, your business can still run from a coffee shop with better Wi-Fi. It's all about building a business that can run without you being there, or a reliable internet connection. Now, I will post after this, from my notes, some software that could potentially help you prepare for offline, or even just leveraging some of those more reliable systems for you without costing an arm and a leg. So some of the ones that I'm going to recommend is like Wave Accounting. It's free, but you do pay transaction fees for credit cards. It has invoicing, basic accounting, and expense tracking that are also completely free. It's excellent for managing money without a subscription fee. Square Point of Sales is free. You pay transaction fees. It's a highly mobile point of sale system that often has strong offline modes for payment, even during outages. PayPal also has one. Its fees are a little bit higher, but also does a very great job. You can also get donations through PayPal as well. Canva is a robust system. I also recommend PicMonkey. PicMonkey is very good. It's similar to Canva, but if you are like me and already have a digital background, I actually graduated with a website development degree way back ages ago. And so PicMonkey is the best of both worlds. It offers a robust system while allowing for easy drop and drag for those of you who are not quite as digitally aware or graphically aware, while also still having a free and low cost tier as well. If you do the low cost tier, it's like $12.99 a month, and you also get all kinds of branding all in one place. And it's more in line with a quick drop and drag for digital marketers. And it does a little bit more than Canva. I personally can't stand Canva. It's too limiting. Also, for digital marketing, MailChimp is a good one. They offer a free plan for up to 500 contacts and excellent for building a customer email list. Another one that I like to talk about is Brevo. Brevo, which used to be, if I remember correctly, Sending Blue, something like that. They are also another good one that also offers a free tier. And if I remember correctly, theirs is also 500 contacts. For project management, there is Trello. There is also Monday.com, which I love Monday.com. For timekeeping, you could use Connect Team. Connect Team is one of my favorites. They also offer a free plan, and you don't always have to have internet. You can even get the admin panel from multiple devices. Communication, Google Workspace Basic is $6 per user per month. This is exactly what I utilize. It gives you a professional email, cloud storage, Google Drive, document suite, and this is crucial. But they offer also offline cloud. I love it. All right. For our second action step, we are going to talk about outsourcing our IT. We are going to also be talking about not trying to be the Geek Squad. And we are also going to talk about unite and lobby for infrastructure changes. So here's a few more non-negotiable action steps for my entrepreneurs in the trenches. And this just builds off of what we were talking about with the first one, which is why I like going through these a little more in depth with each slide instead of putting all 3 points on a separate slide. So first, we're going to talk about outsourcing your IT support and how to stop trying to be the Geek Squad. Look, I know you're the CEO, the accountant, the marketing manager, and the janitor, but you have to fire yourself from some of these jobs. And it's the tech support job that we're going to be talking about now. Trying to fix your own broken printer while simultaneously processing inventory is a surefire way to burn out. Brandon Love from Bewilderment, my dear, this is pointed directly towards you. Thank you for inspiring that line in my business talk today. Brandon, stop. We need to hire our own IT people. I have some freelancers that will be more than happy to come and fix this stuff fairly cheap. Let me know. And they're in Ohio. They can help. Okay. If you don't know who Brandon Love and Bewilderment are, they are my favorite wax melt company. He's my favorite wax melt company. He's the owner. He is phenomenal. He is so kind, has a big heart, and just is outspoken, and I love him. So, yes, I've been a huge Bewilderment fan since I found them in 2020. So, yes, and I buy from them fairly often. You need to outsource IT for a predictable monthly fee. For a small business operating on razor-thin margins, 2 hours of tech downtime is not a mild inconvenience. This is the difference between making payroll and closing your doors. A managed IT service is a proactive investment. It's not a luxury. It is a predictable cost, the price of maybe 2 extra large lattes a month, that prevents a catastrophic, unpredictable cost of a server crash. IT is not tech sorcery. It is just another business function, and it's one that you can afford to offload. For low-cost needs, you can even explore local colleges or vocational tech programs for supervised, budget-friendly assistance on non-critical projects. And finally, unite and lobby for infrastructure. You're not going to fix the potholes or bring in fiber optic cable by yourself. Governments and major utility companies prioritize investments where they face the most political and economic pressure. A single stressed out entrepreneur sending a letter is worthless, but a dozen businesses from the same street corner, organized by their local chamber of commerce, demanding fiber optics and reliable power, that is an organized mob. That's a constituency. That is a posse that you need. And you need to use your collective voice to advocate for the landscape that all local businesses need to thrive. Your digital lifeboat needs to be big enough for the whole community, or you will all sink together. Remember, this isn't just about you. This is about everybody in your community, because if they're failing, you're going to fail. If they're thriving, you're going to thrive, and vice versa. Now, here's some key features that you guys are going to want to work on or think about getting to help create that digital infrastructure to keep your business safe no matter what the landscape looks like, potholes and all. So for password management, we're going to talk about Bitwarden. This is a free plan and it's robust. There's critical security, especially for owners juggling multiple passwords. It prevents data breaches and can crush a small business. Cloudflare offers a free tier basic security CDN, which offers basic website security, DDoS protection, and speed improvements, which helps which can help make a slow internet business appear faster. There's also VPN, such as Proton VPN, which is a free plan with basic features, which provides secure encrypted connection essential for owners accessing finances and sensitive data over unsecured public Wi-Fi. Also for team comms, Slack and Discord, their free plans are highly functional and allow teams to communicate without relying on expensive internal phone systems, and a low-cost way to coordinate staff effectively. Another one that you can also do is, again, with Google Workspace, there is a Google Voice subscription that is relatively cheap, and that also works across all systems and does not always require an internet connection as long as you are not making a phone call. But it also doubles as a business phone number, so it's also really good to look into sometimes as another low-cost potential option. So our last slide for this week, I know you guys are getting so sick and tired of hearing about me. We're going to talk about building your political posse, how this helps and how it will hurt. Hey, Google, stop listening. Sorry, my Google was talking. So we're going to talk about joining a local chamber of commerce. We're also going to talk about weaponize your data, not your wallet. And we're also going to talk about how lobbying is cheaper than downtime. And for our grand finale, we stop fighting alone. The final action step is to join a local chamber of commerce. I know. You hear Chamber of Commerce and you picture a bunch of rich guys in suits having a very expensive dull lunch. But for you, the struggling entrepreneur in a distressed community, the chamber is literally your only hope of getting fiber optic cable and a road without sinkholes. Chambers often have entry-level, low-cost, or sometimes even free introductory memberships for new and micro businesses. You can also bypass the chamber entirely by linking up with a small business development center or an SBDC or a local nonprofit economic development group. These groups are federally funded and literally exist to help you for free. You don't have to sell your firstborn for a membership. You just have to show up. Now, let's look at how you can weaponize your data and not your wallet. You've been collecting records of every internet failure, every power flicker, every time a delivery truck was late because of pothole. Right? No? You should. That anecdotal misery is the chamber's ammunition. When the chamber or an SBDC goes to the city council or a utility company, they don't say, "My members are sad." They say, "Our members lost X number of dollars in revenue last quarter due to 47 documented power outages." They speak the language of money and verifiable data. This is why lobbying is cheaper than downtime. The chamber is a collective voice, a political posse, and they don't just host mixers. They are a direct line to the politicians and utility executives who decide where the money for physical and digital infrastructure gets invested. The chamber and the SBDC and all of these other local outreach are literally lobbying for you. A single complaint from one stressed out business is a whisper. A unified, organized group of tax-paying businesses demanding fiber optics and reliable power is a shout that they cannot ignore. Your local chamber of commerce is more than just a social club. It is an insurance policy against the invisible tax. So here are some low cost and free advocacy resources. Look into your local small business development center. If you are here in Pittsburgh, the University of Pittsburgh has an SBDC that will work with you remotely through Oakland. Look for nonprofit business accelerators and incubators. Look for organizations funded by local grants that specifically work with underserved entrepreneurs. Look at your local library. Many now offer free digital literacy workshops and have connections to community resources. And neighborhood business associations. Sometimes they are less formal and lower cost than a citywide chamber. These are hyper-focused on your direct block or district. If you guys need help finding any of these resources, please feel free to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to hop on a call or any of that with you guys. And I will be more than happy to discuss the ongoing ways that we can tackle this problem together as a collective. Thank you again so much for joining me and for bearing with me through my own digital infrastructure issues. And I appreciate everybody's support. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. I will hopefully see everybody next week on Sunday. And I greatly look forward to hearing how everybody's Thanksgiving was. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.